In this video, we're going to focus more on Nio, although we'll have a quick look at all the other companies as well and how many cars they delivered during the month of January. But you can see that the stocks went up today, but the 52-week range for most of them are not looking that great at all, and especially for Nio, BYD and XPeng. So we'll see in January that Nio delivered 10,055 cars, which is a 18% growth year on year, but that also represents 44% down compared to December. And if you remember this graph here, that in December we delivered 18,012. So it's not that great compared to December, but then you have to always remember that usually January is not that great for Nio. And in fact, this specific January was very good for Nio. This 10,055 is the best January that the company has in their history. So yeah, I think you have to be a bit, let's say, reserved, but this is not overly negative, but as well not overly positive. And we can see the breakdown that out of those 10,000 cars, roughly 6,300 are SUVs and 3,700 are sedans. And you still have to remember that the goal for this year is 240,000 cars or something thereabouts. I think that's an optimistic but doable target. And what are we up against? Well, we know that we are 18% up year on year. So compared to last year, we are 18% up, and we need to, in order to hit the goal of 240,000, we need to even do better than 18%. But then again, you have to remember that we are usually second half heavy with the automotive, and especially in this market. And I think, if last year, if you would have said that these numbers are, especially when we went into April and May, well, everything looked really, really bad. I don't think most people would even believe that we would be able to hit with these kind of numbers. So can I see the same story repeat itself this year again? It's possible. So yeah, considering the 18% year-on-year growth, and we have to beat 12,000. And is Nio going to be able to deliver 12,000 cars in February of this year? I'm not sure. And why do I say that? Well, we know that the Chinese New Year, it says that it's 16 days long, and I think this will have a huge impact on Nio. And the factory will be shut down for a while, and this is obviously something that's true for all of these automotive companies. It's for Tesla in China, Nio, XPeng, Li, BYD, Aito, and all the others. So that's not going to only affect Nio, but yeah, it's not going to be easy to beat these 12,000. But we'll see. I think they could at least make, let's say, 9,000 cars. So that's not too shabby, considering that the Chinese New Year is going to be in February this year again. But going after that in March, I would want to see like a stable, like let's say 18 to 19,000 cars if that's possible. But we'll see. And in regards to the swap station, again, we know that 1.6 million swaps since start of 2024, which is really good, out of 2,350 swap station thereabouts. And we also remember that the CEO mentioned that in order to have break even on the swap system, they need to have 60 swaps per station per day. And right now they are not quite there. They're a bit far off, but at least it's enough amount of swappings being done that this is definitely not a, let's say, fad, but I think, I personally am not fully convinced, but I'm also not fully against it. So I think it's, let's see if Nio can basically survive with this swap station, because that's what's going to make them break them. It's a huge advantage in terms of technical, how you the battery health, so like battery life cycle management. Technically, you don't want to supercharge your car. I'm driving a Tesla Model 3, and basically with every week of supercharging, I can see that the battery range is dropping a bit slowly but surely. So yeah, you want to charge at home overnight, and this is what basically Nio offers. But with the addition of being able to basically go into a swap station, be there 5 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever it is, and get a fully charged battery. And in the meantime, if no one is using the swapping, let's say if there's 10 batteries laying around in the station, technically they could do some energy arbitrage, which they said that they are doing with some of the stations. So I don't think everything is bad. And this also adds, as we've spoken previously, the opportunity for old owners or current owners of Nio to change to a larger battery or a newer battery technology when it arrives in coming years. So there's definitely additional value to be had there with the swap station. But there could also be said that, with these faster chargings that a lot of these companies offer now, 200 kilowatts and even 400 or 500 in some cases, then the swap stations is under a threat from that point of view. So it's difficult to say, but let's see what happens. Now, what's important with the 1,000 additional swap stations? Well, it's basically an increase of, I don't know, 40% or something thereabouts. And we know that the total deliveries of Nio in history is just around 460,000. So if they manage to deliver 240K, it's more than a half of the total cars delivered to date, which means that the speed of the number of cars that Nio gonna sell is going up faster than the charge stations. And that would also basically mean that the utilization per swap station is going up. So we are adding more cars faster than we are adding, let's say, swap stations. And this should in theory mean that the utilization of the swap station should go up slowly but surely, which is good for, as we mentioned, the break even. Now on other news, we can see that Nio's cheaper high volume sub-brand Alps is going to start delivery this year. Some rumors are Q1. I don't believe that. I think that's too soon. I think the market is too quiet for a Q1 launch. But do I put it past them to launch it in, let's say, late Q2 or Q3? I think that's possible. And we've seen some spy shots from the car, which a lot of people say is going to attack Tesla Model Y in the Chinese market and the cars below that. It's supposed to be a highly efficient and nice car basically, and it's gonna obviously offer the Nio swap stations. Some rumors are saying that they're gonna have another type of swap station, but I don't think that makes sense. If Nio goes with the new sub-brand and offers a complete new swap station which cannot utilize the old system already, and you remember we mentioned, it's like 2,300, gonna be well above 3,000 by the end of the year, just only in China. I don't think it's sensible business decision to have this new sub-brand to use a complete new infrastructure of swap stations, because these swap stations at the end of the day cost a lot of money, and to this day burn a lot of money unless the utilization rate is going up. So I don't think it's gonna happen, but let's see. We mentioned the Chinese New Year, as you are aware of, and the next earnings is gonna be on March 6th or thereabouts. I don't think it's confirmed, but usually you have their earnings quite late on the quarter. And just to finish the video off before we quickly look at the other car manufacturers as well, I have to emphasize that you see that the revenue is represented by the white line, and the vehicle sale is obviously correlating directly basically to the revenue. So those two are really correlated, as you can see. But the interesting for me is also that the other sales, which is everything else, the services that Nio offer, you can see that this line is not at all dependent on the up and downs in direct vehicle sales. In the long run, it will be obviously dependent on vehicle sales, that's where most of the revenue will come from. But it's very good to see that the yellow dashed line is increasing slowly but surely with all other type of different sales. And if the cumulative fleet of Nio cars is going to be, let's say, tripling in 3 years from now, so 1.5 million Nio cars out there, you could see this one going up to 500 million, even maybe close to $1 billion on a quarterly basis. So that's what four additional billion, or let's say 2 billion additional revenue from other sales in 3 years, if that's continue to go in this way. So I think this is really interesting. And let's have a quick look at the others. We can see that Tesla this is actually the weekly insurance, and I know that this week earlier today all the numbers came out, and they are basically in this ballpark. I think, as you saw, Nio delivered 10,000, Xpeng just above 7,000. So yeah, it's in general, it's been quite a slow start to January. Nio was down 44% compared to December. A lot of these manufacturers were down anywhere between 40 to even 60% in December. And we can see that Li Auto was affected a bit less compared to their sales in December. I think it's because they are operating in a lower price segment. So if the car sales are going down, most likely the higher end cars is gonna take a hit even more than the, let's say, cheaper cars, because the higher up you go in the chain, the less a necessity it is, and the more let's say luxury product you are buying that you don't necessarily need it. And when you don't have enough money and cash flow in your private economy, you don't go and buy a new car. So I think the first half of this year is gonna be slow for all of these companies, and especially for Nio, so which most likely will look like last year. But I don't expect this huge drop in April and May, because you remember this huge drop in April and May was due to a lot of the models being updated. So they only had to sell, I think, a couple of SUVs at that time, where they usually sell 6, 7, 8 models. So yeah, that's gonna do it for today, and thank you for watching, and like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.